Powerplant Prepware Engine Instrument Systems. Which of the following types of electric motors are commonly used in electric tachometers? Synchronous motors. What unit in a tachometer system sends information to the indicator? The three-phase AC generator. The fuel flow meter indicator rotor and needle for a motor impeller and turbine indicating system is driven by an electric signal. The fuel flow meter used with a continuous fuel injection system installed on an aircraft horizontally opposed reciprocating engines measures the fuel pressure drop across the fuel nozzles. What does the blue arc on a cylinder head temperature, CHT, gauge represent? The range within which operation is permitted in auto lean. Thermocouple leads are designed for a specific installation and may not be altered. If the thermocouple leads were inadvertently crossed at installation, what would the cylinder temperature gauge pointer indicate? Moves off scale on the 0 side of the meter. Where are the hot and cold junctions located in an engine cylinder temperature indicating system? The hot junction is located at the cylinder and the cold junction is located at the instrument. What basic meter is used to indicate cylinder head temperature in most aircraft? Galvanometer. Which of the following is a primary engine instrument? Tachometer. The purpose of an exhaust gas analyzer is to indicate the fuel/air ratio being burned in the cylinders. A common type of electrically operated oil temperature gauge utilizes either a Wheatstone bridge or ratiometer circuit. Which of the following instrument discrepancies require replacement of the instrument? Glass cracked, will not zero out, pointer loose on shaft, fogged. On a twin-engine aircraft with fuel-injected reciprocating engines, one fuel flow meter reads considerably higher than the other in all engine operating configurations. What is the probable cause of this indication? One or more fuel nozzles are clogged. Number 1. Powerplant instrument range markings show whether the current state of power plant operation is normal, acceptable for a limited time, or unauthorized. Number 2. Powerplant instrument range markings are based on installed engine operating limits, which may not exceed, but are not necessarily equal to, those limits shown on the engine type certificate data sheet. Regarding the above statements, Both number 1 and number 2 are true. A complete break in the line between the manifold pressure gauge and the induction system will be indicated by the gauge registering prevailing atmospheric pressure. Turbine engine EGT thermocouples are constructed of chromal and aluminum. The principal fault in the pressure-type fuel flow meter indicating system, installed on a horizontally opposed continuous flow fuel-injected aircraft reciprocating engine, is that a plugged fuel injection nozzle will cause a higher than normal fuel flow indication. An electronic system that monitors engine and airframe parameters and does not utilize traditional engine gauges is called an engine indicating and crew alerting system, ECAS. Which of the following instrument conditions is acceptable and does not require immediate correction? Case paint chipped. On an aircraft turbine engine operating at a constant power, the application of engine anti-icing will result in a noticeable shift in EPR. The fuel flow indication system used with many fuel-injected opposed engine airplanes utilizes a measure of fuel pressure, in addition to fuel quantity. A computerized fuel system, CFS, with the totalizer indicator provides indication of how many of the following: 1. Fuel flow rate, 2. Fuel used since reset or initial startup, 3. Fuel time remaining at current power setting, 4. Fuel temperature. Answer 3. Motor-driven impeller and turbine fuel flow transmitters are designed to transmit data using aircraft electrical system power. What instrument on a gas turbine engine should be monitored to minimize the possibility of a hot start? Turbine inlet temperature. In an aircraft equipped with a pressure drop type fuel flow indicating system, if one of the injector nozzles becomes restricted, this would cause a decrease in fuel flow with an increased fuel flow indication on the gauge. What instrument indicates the thrust of a gas turbine engine? A red triangle, dot, or diamond mark on an engine instrument face or glass indicates the maximum limit for high transients such as starting. Why do helicopters require a minimum of 2 synchronous tachometer systems? One indicates engine RPM and the other main rotor RPM. The exhaust gas temperature, EGT, indicator on a gas turbine engine provides a relative indication of the turbine inlet temperature. The EGT gauge used with reciprocating engines is primarily used to furnish temperature readings in order to obtain the best mixture setting for fuel efficiency. Which unit most accurately indicates fuel consumption of a reciprocating engine? Fuel flow meter. The indication on a thermocouple type cylinder head temperature indicator is produced by a current generated by the temperature difference between dissimilar metal hot and cold junctions. A change in engine manifold pressure has a direct effect on the mean effective cylinder pressure. Basically, the indicator of a tachometer system is responsive to change in frequency. Which statement is correct concerning a thermocouple type temperature indicating instrument system? It requires no external power source. In what units are turbine engine tachometers calibrated? Percent of engine RPM. In regard to using a turbine engine oil analysis program, which of the following is not true? Generally, an accurate trend forecast may be made after an engine's first oil sample analysis. The thermocouple leads used to measure cylinder temperature on an aircraft reciprocating engine are connected to the electrical wiring on one end and the cylinder on the other end. Which statement is true regarding a thermocouple type cylinder head temperature measuring system? The voltage output of a thermocouple system is determined by the temperature difference between the two ends of the thermocouple. Engine pressure ratio is the total pressure ratio between the front of the compressor and the rear of the turbine. The fuel flow indication data sent from motor-driven impeller and turbine and motorless type fuel flow transmitters is a measure of fuel mass flow. Instruments that measure relatively high fluid pressures, such as oil pressure gauges, are usually what type? Bourdon tube. Number 1. Generally, when a turbine engine indicates high EGT for a particular EPR when there is no significant damage, it means that the engine is out of trim. Number 2. Some turbine-powered aircraft use RPM as the primary indicator of thrust produced. Others use EPR as the primary indicator. Regarding the above statements, both number 1 and number 2 are true. The RPM indication of a synchronous AC motor tachometer is governed by the generator, frequency, instruments that provide readings of low or negative pressure, such as manifold pressure gauges, are usually what type? Diaphragm or bellows. A Bourdon tube instrument may be used to indicate pressure and temperature. Engine oil temperature gauges indicate the temperature of the oil entering the engine. The engine pressure ratio (EPR) indicator is a direct indication of engine thrust being produced. A manifold pressure gauge is designed to indicate absolute pressure in the intake manifold. Engine pressure ratio is determined by dividing turbine outlet total pressure by engine inlet total pressure. An indication of unregulated power changes that result in continual drift of manifold pressure indication on a turbo supercharged aircraft engine is known as bootstrapping. In a turbine engine, where is the turbine discharge pressure indicator sensor located? Immediately aft of the last turbine stage. What is the primary purpose of the tachometer on an axial compressor turbine engine? Monitor engine RPM during starting and to indicate overspeed conditions. What would be the possible cause if a gas turbine engine has high exhaust gas temperature, high fuel flow, and low RPM at all engine power settings? Turbine damage or loss of turbine efficiency. Number 1. Engine pressure ratio, EPR, is a ratio of the exhaust gas pressure to the engine inlet air pressure and indicates the thrust produced. Number 2. Engine pressure ratio, EPR, is a ratio of the exhaust gas pressure to the engine inlet air pressure and indicates volumetric efficiency. Regarding the above statements, only number 1 is true.